me how you like it.
That's fine. There we are. We are live. Thank you and welcome everyone for joining us. We are live from the Essence of Knowledge bookstore for what is this? The 8th installment of the LEV Lift Every Voice project, where we're reading the slave narratives. And I wanted to come out in the community. So Miss Michelle has hosted us today, and we are so glad. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're up to chapter 8 of the story, 50 Years in Chains. And today we have some visitors, as you can see, the babies. Miss Michelle, you wanted to come on over and say greetings to everyone. She is our gracious host. As long as the elders, it's always beautiful to hear their voices. The baby is waving his hand. Here comes Miss Michelle in the background. Miss Beautiful Michelle, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Welcome to Essence of Knowledge Urban Bookstore, where we are here to teach you history, knowledge,
and friendship.
We're here to have a conversation. And that's what it's all about. We're here to have a conversation, not a debate, but a conversation.
And to heal.
Yes.
And so we have Mr. Clyde. He's over there. He's over there waving from the back. He's like, hey, there he goes. That was his voice. You could come around, Mr. Clyde. Where did Mr. Jack go? So before we get started, this is what it's about, the wealth of information that the elders have for us and the younger generation and bridging that gap. And there he goes. There you go. Mr. Jackie's gonna come around the side too. Come around the side and say, let me move over.
Join us, Jack.
And then we're gonna read.
You'd be surprised who come into the store every day.
And go to your local
Yes.
bookstore. Go to your
Please.
local bookstore. Support the local people in our community who care about preserving. There goes Mr. Jack in the back. Preserving our heritage and understanding it and bridging that gap, as we said. So we're gonna get started. And hopefully you'll before Black History Month comes in, you might want to start to pick up some of these narratives and actually read. Miss Michelle and those like her in your community, they have these books. So, let's get back to reading. Put down your tablet for a little bit and your cell phone. Yeah?
And remember, it's not just Black history. It's 365 days a year. You should be reading your history.
Yeah, agreed. And history as it relates to everyone else too.
Yes.
Because that's
Your
how
history,
their history, so that we can relate and get beyond some of these barriers that we have built up through ignorance. So we're going to go ahead and get started.
Before you do, I'd like to really say that history thing again. It's unadulterated history, the pure, real thing.
So that, thank you. Anyone else would like to say, Mr. Jack, is there something you'd like to say before we get started?
Yes.
They're listening.
I would like to say this is too much knowledge to be passed up at this store. It is very convenient. It's a very powerful place to come to, and it's very relaxing.
Yes.
And the owners of this place, they have went out their way very hard, very diligent to have these books in here. Thousands of volumes.
Indeed. You can get, like I come in here all the time, like, Miss Michelle, I want us to read this one and that one and this one and that one. And she's like, calm down, Imuna. But definitely, the babies, they have a blast. Just go back to some of the old time. Sit down and read with your children. Allow them to ask questions, the why, and explore, because there's a whole lot that we do not know. And so we're gonna get started. Thank everyone for coming and saying, so everybody can get comfortable.
Here I go again. You're gonna get tired of my input. You
No,
just
I'm
said
not.
some of the old times. I've learned to call it the real time.
Mr. Clyde says the real times.
And another thing I'd like to say, this is a great place to rediscover your history. We're here at Essence of Knowledge Bookstore.
Indeed. And as a matter of fact, to my understanding, it's the only one like it in Brevard County.
Yes.
So it's the only one like it in Brevard County. You may be able to go to other places, but this is definitely a novelty, and it's not a joke. You can go on the internet and look it up if you want to.
Yeah.
And look, when up north where we're from, where I'm from and Miss Michelle is from, you find a lot of urban bookstores. Down south, you really don't find a lot. In Florida, you really don't find a lot. You may see in Fort Lauderdale, but here in Brevard, all of Brevard County, it's the only one. So,
And it has
there you
been
go.
documented that it really is a dying breed
Yes.
of a bookstore. It's only 534 of these bookstores that is in existence,
in the country.
right, that they have found so far. And it is me and my husband and our son plan is to spread the knowledge that we know from being from up north that trickled down to the south. And Imona, I can't say enough about her. She does so much for the community. She's always at the store, and the babies is always at the store. So please come down to Essence of Knowledge and just come and see. We have every book that you can imagine, and some that you didn't even know we have. And the art is
the art is beautiful. So I think I'll take you guys around the store for a tour to see some of the artwork. Very beautiful artwork. So definitely.
So thank you for joining us. Me and my husband really appreciate it.
And thank you so much. And we're going to go ahead and get into it in just a second. You wanted to get us. We didn't know you just wanted to
do your thing.
All right. Now, this is a little bit, I wanted to just, for those who may not know, because yesterday I went to the discussion, and because the information for both parties involved is so emotional, sometimes people want to just say, hey, stop, I can't go anymore. So this is a warning that, graphic warning, it can be graphic. And we're at chapter 8. It says, at the time of which, one more thing, I'm sorry. If you desire to read going forward, just hook me up on Instagram, social media, Facebook, send me a message, because we want the voices of all the people to be lifted and read. So it's open to anyone who desires to share. I know this print is kind of small, as I would ask Mr. Clyde to read it because it's kind of small right now. He told me already it was a little bit small. So I'm going to read a few chapters right now. It says, at the time of which I now speak, the rice was ripe and ready to be gathered. On Monday morning after our feast, the overseer took the whole of us to the rice field to enter upon the harvest of this crop. The field lay in a piece of low ground near the river, and in such a position that it could be flooded by the water of the stream in wet seasons. The rice is planted in drills or rows and grows more like oats than any other grain known in the north. The water is sometimes let in the rice fields and drawn off again, several times according to the state of the weather. Watering and weeding the rice is considered one of the most unhealthy occupations on a southern plantation, as the people are obliged to live for several weeks in the mud and water, subject to all of the unwholesome vapors that arise from stagnant pools, under the rays of a summer sun, as well as the chilly autumn dews of night. At the time we came to cut this rice, the field was quite dry, and after we had reaped and bound it, we hauled it up upon wagons to a piece of hard ground where we made a threshing floor and threshed it. In some places, they tread out the rice with mules or horses, as they tread wheat in Maryland, but this rendered the grain dusty and injurious to its sale. After getting in the rice, we were occupied for some time in clearing and ditching swampy land, preparatory to a more extended culture of rice the next year. And about the 1st of August, 20 or 30 of the people, principally women and children, were employed for 2 weeks in making cider of apples, which grew in an orchard of nearly 200 trees that stood on a part of the estate. After the cider was made, a barrel of it was one day brought to the field and distributed amongst us. But this gratuity was not repeated. I'm sorry, sometimes I have to. Yeah, the cider that was made by the people was converted into brandy at a still in the corner of the orchard. I often obtained cider to drink at the still, which was sheltered from the weather by a shed of boards and slabs. We were not permitted to go into the orchard at pleasure, but as long as the apples continued, we allowed the privilege of sending 5 or 6 persons every evening for the purpose of bringing apples to the quarters for our common use, and by taking large baskets and filling them well, we generally contrived to get as many as we could consume. With that, when the peaches ripened, they were guarded with more rigor. Peach brandy being an article which is now nowhere more highly prized than in South Carolina, there were on the plantation more than 1,000 peach trees growing on poor sandy fields, which were no longer worth the expense of cultivation. The best peaches grow upon the poorest sandy hills. I didn't know that. We were allowed to take 3 bushels of peaches every day for the use of the quarter, but we could and did eat at least 3 times that quantity, for we stole at night that which was not given us by day. I confess that I took part in these thefts, and I do not feel that I committed any wrong against either God or man by my participation in the common danger that we ran, for we knew well the consequences that would follow detection. After the feast at laying by corn and cotton, we had no meat for several weeks, and it is my opinion that our master lost money by the economy he practiced at this season of the year. We're still reading chapter 8. I now entered upon a new scene of life. My true value had not yet been ascertained by my present owner, and whether I was to hold the rank of a first or second rate hand could only be determined by an experience of my ability to pick cotton. I had ascertained that a hoe, the spade, the sickle, or the flail, I was a full match for the best on the plantation, but soon discovered when we came to cotton picking, I was not equal to a boy of 15. I worked hard the first day, but when evening came and our cotton was weighed, I only had 38 pounds and was vexed to see the 2 young men about my own age had one 58 and the other 59. This was our first day's work, and the overseer had not yet settled the amount of a day's picking. It was necessary for him to ascertain by the experience of a few days how much the best hands could pick in a day, before he established the standard of the season. I hung down my head and felt very much ashamed of myself when I found that my cotton was so far behind that of many, even of women, who had theretofore regarded me as the strongest and most powerful man of the whole gang. So I'm sorry, we'll have a little discussion after because this is getting interesting. Please sit down. She's finished. Sit down, sit down. I had exerted myself today to the utmost of my power and as the picking of cotton seemed to be a very simple a business, I felt apprehensive that I should never be able to improve myself so far as to become even a second-rate hand. In this posture of affairs, I look forward to something still more painful than the loss of character which I must sustain, both with my fellows and my masters. For I knew that the lash of the overseer would soon become familiar with my back if I did not perform as much work as any of the other young men. I expected indeed it would go hard with me even now, and stood by with feelings of despondence and terror whilst the other people were getting their cotton weighed. When it was all weighed, the overseer came to me where I stood and told me to show him my hands. When I had done this, he had looked at them. He observed, you have a pair of good hands. You will make a good picker. This faint praise of the overseer revived my spirit greatly, and I went home with a lighter heart than I had expected to possess before the termination of cotton picking. We're at the last portion of the chapter 8. When I came to get my cotton weighed on the evening of the second day, I was rejoiced to find that I had 46 pounds, although I had not worked harder than I did the first day. On the third evening, I had 52, and before the end of the week, there were only 3 hands in the field, 2 men and a young woman who could pick more cotton in a day than I could. On the Monday morning of the second week, when we went to the field, the overseer told us that he mixed the day's work at 50 pounds, and that all those who picked more than that would be paid a cent a pound for the overplus. 25 pounds were assigned as the daily task of the old people, as well as the number of boys and girls, while some of the women who had children were required to pick 40 pounds, and several children had 10 pounds each as their task. Picking of cotton may also be reckoned among the arts. A man who has arrived at the age of 25 before he sees a cotton field will never, in the language of the overseer, become a crate picker. Last paragraph. My great industry and vigilance, I was able at the end of the month to return every evening a few pounds over the daily rate for which I received my pay. But the business of picking cotton was a fatiguing labor to me, and one to which I never became reconciled. for the reason that in every other kind of work, I was called a first-rate hand, whilst in cotton picking, I was hardly regarded as a prime hand. For those who just joined us, we just finished reading 50 Years and Changed the Life. Miss Michelle just let out a big sigh. A big sigh.
That was hard.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah. Go ahead, Miss Michelle.
No, I mean, just to know what our people have endured for us to be where we at today, and not take the resources that we have, it lacks our history. It takes from our history. Instead of us going forward with what our ancestors started, it seems like we stopped. Yes,
Stagnated.
we haven't taken a step forward.
But I don't think that holds for all of our people. There are some who have continued what was started generations ago and are still doing it today.
Well, you're right, because just in the store alone, I have found people that are so conscious. People are waking up. People, a young lady that I know, Tasha Bailey, she opened my eyes to the South. And what she said was, I was trying to get people to read, history books and stuff. And she said, Miss Michelle, you have to understand, you was taught that up in the North, but down in the South, we was not taught that in school. Blinders went off. So I had to go to a whole new approach. Now to this day, that child is awakened. And from her, she have awakened her child. Erica, another one who you know. Now only thing Erica does is ask questions. It's more conscious people out here than we know. But our problem is getting everybody together. Everybody is doing this and that and trying to, save the community, save our children. But we need to come together as a group, and we need to find a way to do that. And I think coming to the bookstore, Imani doing her thing, Mr. Jack coming here doing his poetry, you working with Kenya. I mean, things are starting to connect. The puzzles is starting to connect. Look at the babies. The babies is reading 40 acres and a mule.
I told her to get
But we have to do better. It's up to us to do better for our
children. The sensitivity, again, like I said, for where we are, for everyone, the sensitivity, even for Europeans as well as so-called Blacks, to understand and face the history, for what it is. Because sometimes we shy away from it because we think it's going to be a blame game. But what it is, just deal with what it is. This is what it is. And then we can go from there because, we see it daily. We see it before ourselves faces as we walk in the street. So it's definitely something that needs to be healed and need to be addressed. So,
that's just like, we're hearing the killings of our children, and people thinking this have just started happening. It haven't just started happening. What happened was technology have allowed you to see what is going on. That's what's going on. Technology. True. But we just need to go back and get our children, get them under control, keep them away from the TV, keep them away from the internet, bring them in the house, teach them the values that we grew up on with our grandparents and our parents. Our children have more rights over us than we do over them.
In some cases, again. And if you refer back to what she was reading about the young man picking cotton, he started out at a certain level. He elevated his output, Now, I myself was raised on the west coast of Florida. I was blessed enough to be around one set of my great-grandparents. The effort and energy that they put into work, they taught that to me and my other cousins and brothers and sisters. Nothing is owed to you. You work for what you want.
Correct.
They had their own little forms. We used to have family hog killing. So there are a lot of people in our community who have the same enthusiasm and drive that you read about there. By the same token, there are those who do not have it. And I recognize that.
And they don't have it because they don't know it.
They haven't been taught it.
And who fault is that? You can't blame it on the system. You can't blame it on the school.
No.
It's up to us.
It's the guardians.
Yes, and the guardians is us.
True.
We was brought up by sitting at the foot of our grandparents and listening to the stories. Who's telling our children the stories?
They told us the same history that is available today. So what we should do, what we all should do is try to connect with the younger people.
Yes.
Carry on.
That's what, as Michelle mentioned earlier, those of us who have this frame of mind, we first should find each other.
Yes.
And then that philosophy, idea, those sets of thoughts, we spread it. There are some young people that I have mentored years ago who are very interested if someone will step out and show them the way. And I have a problem when anyone try to stereotype any ethnic group, any gender, or anything. Because I was taught as a child, you find the good, the bad, and the ugly in every gender and every ethnic group on this earth.
I agree with you 100% with that. I agree with you 100% with that. But my problem is we do a lot of talking.
That's right.
But we don't do a lot of doing.
Then it takes people like Michelle, Jack, and Clyde to come together.
Nate.
Find other people who think this.
That's right.
Do. Yes, and there are a lot more of us out there. We
It
just have to
is.
find them.
It is.
I find a lot of times people won't say anything or do anything because they feel that they are alone. Even when they have the same thoughts and ideas that we have. But if we don't have the discussion.
And another reason too, they might feel like they're being rejected. When you have implanted something in your heart that you're going to strive for, you want to succeed.
Correct.
And there are some places we can go right now and find 2 or 3 people out of the 10 or 20 that will go along and listen and will come here or go wherever they have to go and seek knowledge. But those others that won't comply might be the reason why others will not go.
Because they are in front.
Because there's a term called mob psychology. They would feel like they would not defy that. So we got to stop talking like you said.
And start doing.
That's right.
Well, Jack, Michelle has already started on that by opening this place as a community place for communication, for conversation, as she said earlier, not debating. Once others find out, as we have, that this place is here, our mob, so-called, will grow. So Michelle has taken the first step, she and Nate and her boys, their boys. And all we have to do, if we are sincere, move forward with it. Like plan our next meeting here, our next step.
And our next meeting is on the 23rd.
We should try to get some outsiders to come into these meetings.
Yes, it's not
We
just
meet
us.
we meet every day among ourselves.
Right.
Well, she's already
We are not
started.
progressing we already here. I come out here and feel very welcome in here. And I'm a voracious reader. Sometimes it doesn't agree with me. Because I have 3 or 4 look at my desk.
Because that is
Yeah, this is this. I know, I see something. He's here every day.
It take me a month to read all those books. I read 8 or 9 pages out of one and keep on going. And eventually want to end those books.
Right.
I take my notes. That helps tremendously.
Right.
As another point, or to assist in the point, you remember the last book review she had here? And the people that came, some of those people I've never seen before, but that was proof of what I said. There are other people who think it's we do.
right.
And now, Miss Michelle has created the
The
venue.
space. Yeah.
Yes,
Maybe
it was recently started, and you know, you don't build a mountain starting, with 1 grain of sand and come up with the mountain. It's built grain by grain.
I have a question concerning what he was saying. I thought it was interesting. What did you think about how he describe what he felt about not being on par with the others in picking cotton. Like, how did you feel about, in his mind, how he felt like it was, is that just male competitiveness?
I don't think so, because in the past, being a supervisor in industry, I had more women working for me than men. They had that inner drive.
They had that too.
They felt that I can do better than what I am doing, either for a promotion or for a better salary.
Okay.
And in order to gain either or both of those, you had to prove yourself. And the women did do it. So there are some labels that the general public might use, say this is how women are, that's how men.
Right.
You find that some of those things cross the line.
It's a classic.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? What did you feel about his description? That was pretty a short chapter. The other ones that one was less gruesome because there wasn't any beating or anything other than his experience at the cotton field. But what did you feel about that experience?
For me, having 3 young Black kings, because they are my kings. My prince, because my husband is the king.
Yeah, he got prince.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Clyde was about to get on you.
He's the king. But I'm trying to imagine, and I hate to imagine my child during that time, but the boys that I raised to be, and my husband raised, we raised them to be the type of men that we wanted them to be strong. We wanted them to be able to think. I think they would have felt inferior. That, oh, no, think about it now. I mean, he's working side by side with somebody that's picking more than he is, but he's not able to keep up. My boys, I believe, would feel, okay, what am I doing wrong? You know, am I lazy? You know, they was not brought up lazy. But I think he would have felt inferior.
And there are other complexes that the gentleman or the young man could have had.
Right.
One, gosh, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right. And a girl.
I know I can do more than this.
Right.
And I refer to him because he was reading.
Right, reading about him, right.
So there's...
No, I'm saying at the end, a woman, he said two younger children, 2 younger men and a woman picked more than him.
And this is
in the mind of the man. Like, wait a minute.
And 2 minutes here. Let's be real. Do you want a woman to outdo you?
No.
It depends on what it is.
Unless she having babies.
She can outdo you all the time.
I always have had a philosophy. I'd rather work with the smartest and the deepest thinking person. I don't care if it's a man or a woman. In order for us to move forward, you want to take the brightest idea.
Right.
And I've been in an environment where the women did have the brightest ideas.
That's good. That's
So
good
I don't
that you
live
have,
with that stereotype.
well, it's good that you had that attitude. Because there is a lot of men that don't feel that way.
I agree, and there are other men who feel the same way that I do.
And I agree with that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Jack, how was your feelings about what you heard?
And about the book?
Yeah.
I heard the man was trying to create competitiveness. That's exactly what I heard. And the writer, he was expressing that competitiveness. Right? He didn't go off the channel and said, I was doing it better. I didn't do it anymore because he didn't have the capacity to do anymore. I think he was content to do what he could. And that's another thing we got to get to, contentment. We get to contentment. Contentment is far greater than richness. Contentment is within the soul, within the spirit. Richness is a material thing. Now, it's good to have ample amount of money to take care of your responsibilities, right? But to try to hoard money,
right,
that's going to defect you. And the soul and the spirit will not defect you with contentment. Let's try to get contentment first. Let's be satisfied that we get 3 or 4 people down here a day, maybe, come in here and sit with us and have some and comport with us for elevate ourselves too.
Right.
Let's expand our knowledge
Right.
about each other,
Right.
about the world,
Right.
and we got to use the past as our compass.
Oh, I want you to say that again because
Yeah.
yesterday I heard like we don't need to talk about that. I don't know why you're talking about
We don't
that.
need to
Forget
talk
about that.
what?
We didn't need to talk about slavery. We don't
Why
need to
not?
because
I don't
it's,
understand.
it's gone. It's beyond us, and let's move forward.
But we're not moving forward because the first thing you hear is, some things you hear from some people is the reason I am where I'm at now is because the white man got his foot on my neck. Okay, let's address that first.
Right.
The white man don't have his neck on your neck, on his foot on your neck. His neck on your neck. I mean, now I'm starting to get fired up. You are where you are at because you choose to be there.
That's the truth.
Uh-oh.
That is
Y'all done
You-
stir something.
because
You choose to be there.
and you know what?
Stir something.
Laziness is very accomplished.
Yes.
Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to let the elders have a seat and talk to the people for me. Talk to the people. Have a seat, Mr. Jack. Have a seat, Mr. Cloud. Talk to the people.
No, have a seat. We
Talk
want
to
to have a
the
conversation.
people. Talk to the people for me because
Have a
they
seat.
can hear you. They can see you.
Okay, y'all gonna do it? You're right. He says,
Get your light. You want to talk? You get light.
They need to hear it.
this poem has a lot to do with our past, with our future. And I'm quite sure a lot of you people out there have had this experience before with meeting new people, wherever you might be, church, the bar, the baseball field, whatever. It's called Looking Back. The last part of this poem is the gist of it. A popular group of people invited me to join them and become somebody. Their words were convincing. They had money and influence. Looking back, that term was somebody didn't agree with me. I couldn't act me, couldn't say me, or I couldn't be me. Looking back, I lived the best life that my friends relied on me to be. Accepted my simplicity with inspiring appeal. Cheered my efforts when they failed. I was happy. I knew who I was. I went back to the life I relied on. Looking back, this is the part right here what we must consider every day when we walk into a perilous situation or just having fun. Looking back, I consider my past as my ultimate guide. It has never deceived me or never lied. When you go back in your history, your past history will tell you to go left or go right. It will never tell you to do wrong. Because doing wrong doesn't get you anywhere, but in jail, in trouble. And we don't want to get in jail. That's a hindrance. Stay free. Free your mind. Free your attitude. Create a new life within yourself. Become a new somebody. Let that old life go that has stagnated you all these years. And maybe you stagnated yourself with laziness. And laziness is very accomplished. Thank you.
Let's not.
What?
You know you had something to say.
Give us something, Mr. Clyde. Give us something. Give us something to talk about. Let them hear something now.
First thing comes to my mind is something my grandmother gave me when I was a child. She said, boy, you need a guiding light in your life, and I'm going to give it to you. Psalms 46:10, which simply says, be still and know that I'm God. Now, if you're not into the spiritual realm of life and living, then we may have some differences. But you can add to that, to believe in yourself. Learn the difference between right and wrong, good and bad. And sometimes it takes negativeness in our past to learn we don't want to do that again. But we have to recreate ourselves from within. It's simply something like a lot of people take full credit when things go good that they had their hand in. But let something go bad that they had their hands in, it wasn't my fault. So you think about it. And there's another thing that I was taught. Each and every one of you and all of us here, when you be realistic about it, there's only one person on this earth that you have to live with, and that is yourself. You choose others to be with, and you hope you choose like-minded, good people to be with. My whole point is you are responsible for yourselves. So keep that in mind. Another thing I was discussing with my sister today, when we were kids, we were taught, there's a reason why you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth.
Oh.
If you look and listen twice as much as you talk, you're going to learn something. And you'll also find out you're not as smart as you think you are. But with time, due diligence, and patience, you'll grow within and without. I'll cut it there before Michelle slap you upside down.
That was a good stuff. Miss Michelle, give it to him. Give it to him, Miss Michelle.
I'm going to get over here now.
I'm younger than the 2 of the gentlemen that just spoke. So I'm going to have to speak from what I know, from what me and my husband have taught our boys. And we see that our boys is teaching their children. Be still. Listen. It doesn't take much, but it takes a village. The village needs to come back to raise the child. We don't have that no more. We don't have Miss Ruth down the street calling your mother and letting her know what you're doing. Because everybody's too busy doing their own things. We got children at home, so young, taking care of their little ones because mommy or daddy's out in the street doing their thing. Let me tell you, the minute you have that child and you birth them, as you know your life before then, it's over. Your responsibility is to raise that child to the best of your ability. Now, ladies, you might don't want to hear this.
Give it to him.
You might. I know I'm going to get backlash for this. But I'm going to tell you right now, a woman cannot raise a boy to be a man. Stop going around and say, yeah, you are mother and father, but that boy need a man. Point blank period. I don't care if it's the postman, UPS, milkman, you need a man in that boy life. You cannot teach a boy to be a man. Your responsibility is to teach him on how to be a gentleman, on how to treat a woman. You want your child, your boy child, to treat his woman the way you want to be treated. That's your job. Your child, any child, is taught from the crib by the mother in most cases. No disrespect for the single fathers out there, but most kids are taught from the cradle by their mother. And we nurture. But when it comes to that time and that boy want to buff up and pop that chest out, then that's when you hand him to his father and let his father handle his business and stay out of it. Trust me. I got 3 boys. I know what I'm talking about. I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna agree with me, and that's fine. Everybody got their own opinion. But we got to do better, people. We have to. We have to help each other. As ladies, we should be able to go to our sisters and tell our sisters, I need help. You know, I have these kids. Maybe we can switch off on babysitting each other, you know, or have somebody to cry shoulder on. But nowadays, the women that I see of the day, they want to be so strong that they forgot on how to be a woman. It's nothing wrong. It's nothing wrong with being afraid. You know, it's nothing wrong with being weak. You know, that's why you got your sister there, your mother, your aunt. Go to them. If you don't know, ask somebody. Come to the bookstore, ask me. I'll tell you anything you want to know. So, like I said, I thank y'all for coming to Essence of Knowledge Urban Bookstore. The dream for me and my husband was we was very offended that when we got here, we couldn't find any literature on Black history or any books for young Black kids. This here is a great book, Black Legacy. Great book for children. It's a project every day. Our history books, if I don't have it, I can get it. If you're looking for fiction, we have it. I have the best author right now sitting on my shelf. His name is Blacktop. Yeah, I'm promoting my bookstore. That's why we're here, aren't we? Blacktop. Young man. Has some things in his life. Fixed it. Now he's one of the top selling authors out there. You should hear his testimony. What I'm saying is, just come down, give your child a book. Just give your child a book. Even if they still just play on the video game, give them a book and tell them to read a page a day. But it's up to you, us, to get our kids back to reading and learning their history. And you need to know everybody's history, a little bit of everything. And that's from Essence of Knowledge Urban Bookstore, 1281 King Street, Cocoa, Florida. And our phone number is 321-806-4766. Now I'm going to turn you back over to the famous author here.
She said, I will close this up.
And here she is. Thank y'all for coming.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank everyone for tuning in. That was Miss Michelle, Mr. Jack, Mr. Clyde, and the babies and everybody. It's a beautiful evening conversation. As you know, we're going to tune back in and go through chapter 9. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to hit us up on social media. And once again, if you are in the Brevard area in Florida, definitely this is a place that you want to come and see. And wherever you are, look for your urban bookstores, look for your people who are doing things and support them. Don't say we don't never do nothing and then we don't never support. That's why we don't do nothing. So until next time, my name is Amuna Israel. One.